Have you ever wondered why some women seem to hold men spellbound, not by what they reveal but by what they conceal? Picture a woman who walks into a room, her presence like a half-remembered dream, elusive, magnetic, a puzzle no one can solve. She is the silent oracle, an archetype of feminine power who wields mystery not as a game, but as a sacred truth of her being. Her allure isn't in loud declarations or desperate bids for attention. It's in the quiet depth of her unspoken world, a universe so rich it pulls others into its orbit. This is the alchemy of attraction, where the unseen casts a stronger spell than the known. Why does her mystery drive him wild? Because the human soul, as Carl Jung might whisper from the shadows, craves what it cannot fully possess. The silent oracle knows this instinctively. She is not a performer, not a seductress in the shallow sense. Her power lies in her restraint, her ability to dwell in the liminal space between revelation and secrecy. Jung's concept of the anima, the feminine soul within every man, stirs when confronted with such a woman. The anima is a mirror, a projection of his deepest desires and fears, and the silent oracle becomes its living embodiment. She does not chase his gaze. She invites it, then deflects it, leaving him to wrestle with his own longing. This is no manipulation. It's a dance of authenticity. She is whole within herself, and that wholeness is what makes her untouchable. Consider the man who is drawn to her. His pursuit is not just of her body or her words, but of something deeper, a truth he senses but cannot name. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. In the context of attraction, this is profound. The man's imagination runs wild, filling the gaps of her mystery with his own projections. He wonders, who is she truly? What lies beneath her calm exterior? This uncertainty is not a weakness but a catalyst. It forces him to confront his own ego, his need to control, to possess, to know. The silent oracle, by simply being herself, becomes a mirror for his growth or his unraveling. But you, listener, might feel a spark of recognition here. Have you ever dimmed your own light to be seen, to be understood? Have you ever given too much, too soon, hoping it would tether someone to you? The silent oracle does not make this mistake. She knows that true attraction is born not in what is given, but in what is earned. Her mystery is not a withholding of love, but a preservation of self. She understands that to be fully known is to risk losing the sacred tension that fuels desire. And yet, this is not about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to forget. It's about living so deeply in your own truth that others cannot help but be drawn to it. This dance of mystery is rooted in Jung's idea of individuation, the journey to integrate all parts of the self, including the shadow. The shadow is the hidden self, the parts you fear to show, your doubts, your rage, your unpolished edges. The silent oracle embraces her shadow not as a flaw but as a source of power. She does not perform perfection. She embodies authenticity. When a man senses this, he is captivated, not by a facade, but by a woman who is unafraid to be both light and dark. This is what makes her magnetic. She is not trying to be anything other than herself. Yet the question lingers, how does she maintain this mystery without losing herself? How do you, listener, hold your own power without slipping into the trap of performance? The answer lies in boundaries, not as walls, but as sacred thresholds. The silent oracle knows where she ends and another begins. She shares her heart selectively, not out of fear, but out of reverence for her own depth. She is not cold, she is discerning. She is not distant, she is deliberate. And in that deliberation, she creates space for him to step forward, to prove himself worthy of her inner world. But what happens when the chase intensifies? When his desire becomes a mirror for your own doubts? The silent oracle faces this moment with stoic resolve, as Marcus Aurelius might counsel, focus only on what is within your control. Can you control his feelings? No. Can you control your own worth? Absolutely. The mystery that drives him wild is not a trick, it's the radiance of a woman who knows herself. And that, dear listener, is where the true power lies. The silent oracle moves through the world with a quiet gravity, her presence a paradox of invitation and restraint. Her mystery is not a calculated game but a natural extension of her inner sovereignty. She knows something most do not. Attraction is not about being fully known, but about being deeply felt. When a man encounters her, he is not just drawn to her beauty or her words, he is pulled into the orbit of her unspoken depths. This is where the alchemy of desire begins, in the tension between what is revealed and what remains veiled. But why does this tension hold such power, and how does she wield it without losing herself in the process? Jung's concept of the shadow offers a clue. The shadow is the unseen, the parts of the self that society, or even the self, deems unworthy. For many women, the shadow might hold anger, ambition, or the raw hunger for freedom. The silent oracle does not banish these parts, she integrates them. She knows that her mystery is not just in her light but in her darkness, in the complexity that makes her human. When a man senses this integration, he is captivated. He is not chasing a perfect woman but a real one, whose contradictions mirror his own. This is the anima's pull, the feminine archetype within him that seeks completion through her. She becomes a canvas for his projections, but she never lets those projections define her. Consider the man in pursuit. His fascination is not merely romantic, it's existential. He is drawn to her because she represents something he cannot fully grasp, a wholeness he longs for but struggles to attain. The Stoic Epictetus would argue that his desire is less about her and more about his own inner lack. He projects his unhealed wounds, his unmet dreams onto her mystery. And herein lies the paradox. The more he seeks to possess her, the more he must confront himself. The silent oracle, by simply existing in her truth, becomes a catalyst for his growth. She does not mold herself to his expectations. She invites him to rise to hers. But you, listener, might wonder, how do you embody this without falling into the trap of performance? How do you hold your mystery without becoming distant or aloof? The answer lies in authenticity, not artifice. The silent oracle does not hide who she is. She curates what she shares. She is selective, not out of fear, but out of reverence for her own depth. Imagine a garden, lush and hidden behind a gate. Not everyone is invited in, not because the garden is secretive, but because its beauty is sacred. You decide who enters, not to control others, but to honor yourself. This is the boundary that keeps your mystery alive. Yet boundaries are not enough on their own. The silent oracle also practices detachment, a Stoic principle that Seneca championed. Detachment does not mean coldness. It means releasing the need for external validation. When you stop seeking his approval, you free yourself to be fully present. You allow him to see you as you are, not as he wishes you to be. This is where the magic happens. In your unapologetic presence, you become a mirror for his own desires and fears. He is drawn not to what you give, but to what you embody, a woman who is enough without his gaze. This dynamic is not without its challenges. The man's pursuit can stir your own shadows, doubts about your worth, fears of being too much or not enough. The silent oracle faces these with courage, turning inward to confront her own projections. Are you seeking his attention to fill a void, or are you standing in your power, inviting him to meet you there? The difference is subtle but seismic. When you choose the latter, you shift the energy of the dance. You are no longer the pursued, you are the one who chooses. And what of the man who falters, who mistakes your mystery for a challenge to conquer? The silent oracle does not waver. She knows that not every man is ready to meet her in her fullness. Some will project their insecurities, demanding answers she will not give. Others will rise, drawn to the challenge of earning her trust. Either way, her power remains intact, rooted in her self-knowledge. She is not swayed by his response, for her worth is not his to define. But how does this mystery deepen over time? How do you sustain it without losing the spark of connection? The silent oracle knows that mystery is not static, it evolves with her. And that evolution begins with a single, daring act of self-discovery. The silent oracle does not merely exist in her mystery. She cultivates it, like a gardener tending to a wild, untamed grove. Her power lies not in withholding but in choosing when to reveal, when to retreat, when to let the silence speak louder than words. This is no superficial game of cat and mouse. It is a deliberate act of self-preservation, a refusal to dilute her essence for the sake of being understood. Her mystery drives him wild because it is not manufactured. It is the natural byproduct of a woman who has journeyed deep into her own psyche, who has faced her shadows and emerged whole. But how does she sustain this allure without losing the intimacy that connection demands? The answer lies in the delicate balance of vulnerability and strength, a balance rooted in Jungian wisdom and Stoic discipline. Jung's concept of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all parts of the self, is the silent oracle's guiding star. She does not shy away from her inner contradictions, her tenderness and her ferocity, her longing and her independence. These dualities are not flaws, but facets of her mystery. When a man encounters her, he senses this complexity. He is drawn not to a one-dimensional ideal but to a woman who embodies the full spectrum of human experience. His fascination is fueled by the glimpses she offers, moments of raw honesty that hint at the vastness within her. Yet, she never gives it all away. To do so would be to betray her own depth, to reduce the infinite to the finite. You, listener, might feel the weight of this truth. Have you ever felt the urge to overshare, to lay bare your heart in hopes of being seen? The silent oracle knows this impulse and resists it, not because she fears vulnerability, but because she understands its sacredness. Vulnerability is not a floodgate to be flung open. It is a gift, offered sparingly to those who have earned it. When you share selectively, you create a space where intimacy can grow, not out of desperation, but out of mutual respect. This is the paradox of mystery. By holding back, you invite deeper connection. By standing in your own truth, you draw others toward you. The Stoic wisdom of Marcus Aurelius echoes here. Focus only on what is within your control. You cannot control how a man perceives you, nor can you force him to value your depth. But you can control how you show up in the world. The silent oracle chooses presence over performance, authenticity over approval. She does not mold herself to fit his expectations. She invites him to meet her where she stands. This is what makes her magnetic. She is not chasing his validation, but living her truth. And in that truth, she becomes a mirror for his own unexamined desires. Yet this path is not without its trials. The pursuit of mystery can stir your own doubts, your own fears of being too much or not enough. The silent oracle faces these shadows head-on, asking herself, am I hiding out of fear or am I protecting my sacredness? The difference is everything. Hiding is a reaction to external judgment. Protecting is an act of self-love. When you choose the latter, you reclaim your power. You become a woman who is not swayed by his gaze but strengthened by her own. This strength is what keeps the dance of attraction alive. The man who is drawn to the silent oracle is not just chasing her. He is chasing the version of himself he longs to become. Her mystery forces him to confront his own projections, his own need for control. Some men will falter here, retreating into insecurity or demanding answers she will not give. Others will rise, inspired by her presence to dig deeper within themselves. Either way, she remains unshaken. Her worth is not contingent on his response. It is rooted in her own being. But what happens when the connection deepens? When mystery must give way to intimacy? The silent oracle does not abandon her essence. She adapts it. She knows that true intimacy is not about revealing everything, but about revealing what matters most. She shares her heart in layers, each revelation a step toward mutual trust. This is the art of sustaining mystery, not by withholding love, but by honoring the sacred rhythm of connection. And yet, there is one final piece to this puzzle, a secret that the silent oracle holds close, a truth that transforms her mystery into something even more powerful. What is it that makes her not just captivating, but unforgettable? The silent oracle's mystery is not a static veil, but a living, breathing force that evolves with her. It is not enough to simply embody this archetype. She must nurture it, refine it, and wield it with intention. Her power lies in her ability to remain a paradox, accessible yet untouchable, vulnerable yet sovereign. This is what keeps him captivated, not just in the fleeting spark of attraction, but in the enduring fire of fascination. But what is the secret that makes her unforgettable? It is her unwavering commitment to her own becoming, a journey that Jung would call individuation, and that the Stoics would frame as living in accordance with nature. She is a woman who does not seek to be completed by another, but who is already whole. This wholeness is the heart of her mystery. The silent oracle does not need a man's gaze to validate her existence. She is lit from within. Jung's concept of the anima, the feminine archetype that resides in the male psyche, helps explain why this is so intoxicating. When a man encounters her, he projects his deepest longings onto her, seeing in her the qualities he seeks within himself: strength, depth, authenticity. But unlike others who might bend to these projections, the silent oracle remains steadfast. She does not become what he wants. She remains who she is. This refusal to conform is what makes her a flame in his darkness, a beacon he cannot look away from. You, listener, might feel the weight of this calling. Have you ever felt the pull to dim your own light, to shrink into a version of yourself that feels safer, more palatable? The silent oracle rejects this temptation. She vows that her power lies in her authenticity, in the courage to stand fully in her truth, even when it unsettles others. This is not arrogance, it is self-respect. It is the Stoic principle of Epictetus brought to life. Focus on what is yours to control, your thoughts, your actions, your essence. When you live this way, you become a force of nature, a woman whose presence is felt before she speaks. But this presence is not without its challenges. The man who is drawn to her mystery may struggle with his own shadows, his need to possess, to control, to unravel her completely. The silent oracle does not fight this, she allows it. She knows that his struggle is not her burden. Her role is not to fix him, but to reflect him. By holding her ground, she invites him to confront his own projections, to question what he seeks and why. Some men will run from this mirror, fearing what they see. Others will step closer, drawn to the challenge of meeting her in her fullness. Either way, she remains unshaken, her mystery intact. This dynamic is where the dance of attraction deepens into something more profound. The silent oracle understands that true connection is not about losing herself in another, but about creating a space where two whole beings can meet. She shares her heart not as a sacrifice, but as an offering, given only to those who have earned her trust. This selectivity is not coldness. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that her inner world is a sacred space, one that deserves reverence. When you, listener, embrace this truth, you reclaim your power. You stop chasing approval and start choosing connection. Yet the journey is not without its inner battles. The silent oracle must face her own fears, of rejection, of being misunderstood, of standing alone. These are the shadows that Jung urges us to integrate, the parts of ourselves we hide from the world. By embracing them, she transforms her vulnerability into strength. She becomes a woman who is not afraid to feel deeply, to love fiercely, to exist boldly. This is what makes her unforgettable, not just her mystery, but the courage it takes to live it. And so the question arises, how does she carry this mystery into the future? How do you, listener, embody this power in a world that demands you to be seen, to be known, to be everything to everyone? The silent oracle knows that her mystery is not a destination, but a journey, one that requires constant tending, constant courage. And at the heart of this journey lies a final truth, a revelation that ties her power to her purpose. The silent oracle's mystery is not a fleeting spell but a lifelong devotion to her own unfolding. She is not static, nor is her power rooted in the fleeting thrill of being chased. Her allure endures because it is tied to her purpose, to live as a woman fully awake to her own depth, unapologetic in her complexity. This is the final truth that makes her not just captivating but transformative. Her mystery drives him wild because it is not about him. It is about her. She is the embodiment of Jung's individuation, a woman who has woven her light and shadow into a tapestry so rich it defies comprehension. And in that defiance, she becomes a force that reshapes the world around her. This transformation begins within. The silent oracle knows that her power is not in what she withholds, but in what she chooses to embody. She does not play small to ease others' insecurities, nor does she overshare to prove her worth. She exists in the sacred tension between vulnerability and restraint, offering just enough to spark connection while preserving the vastness of her inner world. This balance is her alchemy, turning fleeting attraction into lasting fascination. It is what Seneca might call living in accordance with nature, her truth, her essence. You, listener, might feel the stir of this truth within you. Have you ever given too much of yourself, hoping it would anchor someone to you? Have you ever felt the ache of being unseen, even as you poured out your heart? The silent oracle teaches a different way. She knows that true power lies in self-possession, in the quiet confidence of a woman who needs no external mirror to know her worth. When you embrace this, you shift the dynamic of every relationship. You stop being the pursued and become the one who chooses. You stop seeking validation and start creating connection on your own terms. This shift is not without its cost. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we must let go of what others think to claim our own freedom. For the silent oracle, this means releasing the need to be fully understood. She accepts that some will misinterpret her mystery as aloofness, others as a challenge to conquer. She does not correct them, she lets them wrestle with their own projections. This is her strength. She is not swayed by their perceptions because her foundation is built on self-knowledge. She is the woman who, in Jung's words, has faced her shadow and found it to be a source of light. But what does this look like in practice? It is the courage to say no when your heart demands it. It is the wisdom to share your truth only with those who honor it. It is the strength to walk away from connections that demand you shrink. The silent oracle does not cling to relationships out of fear. She chooses them out of alignment. And in that choice, she creates a space where true intimacy can flourish. Not the intimacy of codependence, but the intimacy of two souls meeting in their fullness. This is the gift of her mystery. It is not just a spark that draws him in, but a fire that illuminates her own path. The man who is worthy of her will not seek to extinguish that fire. He will be drawn to its warmth, inspired to kindle his own. And for those who cannot meet her in this space, she lets them go, not with malice but with grace. Her worth is not their verdict, it is her birthright. As you stand at this crossroads, listener, ask yourself, what would it feel like to embody this power? To move through the world with the quiet certainty of the silent oracle, knowing that your mystery is not a performance, but a reflection of your truth. This is the moment of your becoming. Share the moment you felt most empowered in the comments below, and let it be a beacon for others. The woman who knows her worth does not chase, she chooses.